thought. Okay, thought is an insinuation. It's a proposal. It's a proposed concept or idea that is proposed for the purpose of bringing into actuality or into existence. That's what thoughts are. Every thought that comes into our mind leads to the inception of a particular thing coming into existence. Whatever that thing is. It could be a car, it could be a house, it could be an idea, it could be anything. Anything that we can make concrete or bring into actuality or into the physical world, then that is considered that thing. So with this being said, I will only have to assume that this whole thing that we call life started off with a thought. I mean, I would only have to assume that for the simple fact that we are a product of our own thoughts. Everything that we create, everything that we see manifested in the material world is a product of somebody's thoughts. The conspiracy of those thoughts and the conglomeration of those thoughts coming together to create something that can be seen. See, when a thought comes in your head, that thought could be a material. It could be an idea. It could say, the thought could be a presentation of how things should be. And the way those thoughts correlate with one another will determine if it becomes actual or not. So that being said, I have to assume that this whole thing was inspired by thought. So just say, for instance, the creation, the earth. Somebody or something had the idea of all of this coming into existence. What if we can trace all thoughts back to the very first thought? We can take all the thoughts in the world that have ever come into existence, which is probably trillions and trillions within trillions. I mean, there's no number we can even place on the many thoughts that have been generated. We're not even including the thoughts that are being generated right now. New thoughts, old thoughts, future thoughts, past thoughts, present thoughts. I mean, if we were to take all those thoughts, it'd be ridiculously, we would just be overwhelmed. There's just too many to even analyze and figure out. But if we were to go back to the very first thought that ever came into existence, that would give us the answer of what started this whole thing. That will give us the answer. If we can go back to the very first thought. Because whatever that thought was, that is the reason why we exist. It's no different than me having a thought to go to Dairy Queen and get an ice cream cone. It's no different than me having that thought and then me deciding to act upon that thought and make that thought a reality by going to Dairy Queen and buying an ice cream cone. It's no different. Thoughts infuse and inspire action. They're proposed ideas and concepts that can be made and be manifested in the material world if we decide to allow that. So my question is, what was the first thought? What's the first thought? Who had the first thought? That's the question. What was the first thought? The first thought that ever came into existence, what was it? And not only the thought, but where did the thought come from and what inspired it? That's the thing we got to figure out. If we can figure that out, then we'll know why we all exist. And it has to be something concrete. Like, it has to be something that can reach our level of comprehension that encompasses and includes reason and logic in its deliberation. Has to. There's no logic involved in the conclusion of what we figured out, then it's null and void. Period. It can't be something that we can hold as being an actual fact. There's no way. It needs to be supported by logic and reason. Now, when it comes to logic and reason, what's really reasonable and what's really logical? What's illogical and what's reasonable when you really think about it? Because logic and reason is constituted and based upon our perception of what we feel makes sense. Like for instance, to me it doesn't make sense, and it's not reasonable for one to take $100 bill and take a match to it and burn it. That doesn't make any logical sense, for the simple fact that that $100 bill is needed to support your life, to make purchase, and it has some type of value. No intrinsic value of its own, but it has some type of value in this world because it allows you to sustain yourself, to feed your body that you live within every single day. So to me, it doesn't make any logical sense why a person would take a match and burn a $100 bill. Logically speaking, I can say that. Whereas someone else may see logic in that. Their logic could be, I don't know, they felt like burning a $100 bill because they have a whole bunch of other $100 bills. So they can burn that $100 bill because they have a whole bunch of $100 bills. But to me, what I constitute as logic and reason is something that can bring you a coherent remedy and solution, an absolute solution and remedy to any problem or any circumstance. That's what I consider logic and reason. Something that constitutes an absolute solution that coherently makes sense, that is not abrogating your health, your security as a human being. It's not compromising anybody else around you. It's not injuring anyone, but it's simply giving you a positive outcome to any solution or circumstance. That's what I consider logic and reason. Something that has no injuries. If I'm doing something that can possibly injure me or someone else that I care about or somebody else that's around, that's illogical. Case in point, it's illogical for the world to have rich people in it and poor people in it. It's illogical for young Timmy to be able to go to school, afford school clothes, books, writing utensils, a lunch every day, and a beautiful home to come home to every single day, and for Junebug across the street to go to school and not be able to share in those same privileges. To me, that's illogical. It's illogical because neither one of these kids are any different from each other. The parents are any different from each other. They're made of the same source and substance, possess the same exact abilities. So why is one being held in a more higher regard than the other when they're actually made up of the same thing? Doesn't make sense to me. One is being injured, one is receiving remedy. So in my mind, that's illogical. But according to the country or the state, it's very logical because in their mind, it keeps order. And for the simple fact that one has not. One can do, one can't. Also, it keeps things in order because there's one control source that can control everything and everybody. That's their logic. But in their logic and in their reasoning, people are being injured because of that. There's homelessness on the street. There's people starving and dying and families are hurting. There's people robbing and stealing and committing treacherous acts of immorality because they can't support themselves. So to me, it's not logical to harm people. It's not logical to pursue something or to invoke something that is going to cause injury to yourself and to others. Doesn't make sense. It's not logical. Now, I don't see the logic in injuring people. If there's logic in people being hurt and people being abused, then okay, I get it. But to me, that doesn't make sense for people to hurt and be abused and injured and not be able to sustain their life and so forth and so on because of something that someone's doing. That doesn't make sense to me. So in my mind, the way I understand it is logic and reason and sound coherency is based upon your ability to administrate and to provide a solution to a circumstance or a problem without causing any harm or injury to yourself or to other people. Because everything that we have to think about, everything that we do, everything that we think about has something to do with the outcome of it. It's either going to cause a remedy or it's going to cause a problem. And that's where logic comes into play. When it comes to religion, it's the same thing. You go to a church. Christianity teaches believe in Jesus, believe in God. But it goes against your ability to reason. You're worshiping a man that you've never seen, touched, or held before, and you're holding your whole life in this invisible idea or this concept that you don't even know anything about. This person has never came into reality. It's not an actual thing, but you're putting all your faith and your energy into this thing. And by you doing that, it causes you much injury because now your whole life is based upon this deity. And when you do that, what you're doing is now putting your life somewhere where it doesn't belong. For instance, because of religion, you have religious wars. Christianity believes in Jesus Christ. Muslims believe in Allah. Buddhists believe in Buddha. This religion believes in that. This believes in that. And because of that, all these religions are causing separation. It's causing people to separate. It's causing division. It's not causing commonality, or it's not causing us to become stronger as a people. It's dividing us as a people. And where we're divided, we can be conquered. So how is religion a good thing? How? I don't understand the logic in enforcing something that is going to separate people and injure them in their capacity of freedom and survival. We need each other to survive. And if we can't get along and we can't support each other and we can't see eye to eye, then how can we help each other in surviving? So that's what I mean by that. When I say that, logic and reason, what's reasonable and logical is anything that gives you a absolute solution to a problem or circumstance that does not cause injury or harm to yourself or to others. That's what reason and logic is. So going back to my former statement about thought, if the deliberation of where that thought comes from does not include the contents of logic and reason being a part of the equation, then it is null and void. We can't say that the thought came from God because no one's seen God. And no one even knows if God exists. You can't say that logic and reason comes from some ethereal source or plane or futon, because we've never seen a futon or anything like that. It has to be something based upon our ability to think. Now, here's the catch-22 to this whole thing. We ourselves are too insignificant in our existence. Period. We're too insignificant. It is like an ant crawling on the ground trying to figure out how it came into existence. It's like an ant crawling on the ground trying to figure out if there's a such thing as an end to the street that it is crawling on. That ant crawling on that street corner, to that ant, he's walking towards eternity. He probably died before he gets to the end of the street, even though there is an end. In his mind, he may think there is no end, but reality, there is an end. See, so that's how we are. We're too insignificant in our capacity at this level of existence to really completely understand what is really real and what's not. To understand what a thought is, to understand the concept of where thoughts come from. We're just way too insignificant. Entirely too insignificant. Way too insignificant. We have to leave the cavity that we call our physical body to be able to embark on the elaborate journey of trying to figure this whole thing out. There's no way we'll figure it out. We're too insignificant. The best we can do is come up with ideas and concepts. That's the best we can do. And because we're so, I believe that this is the reason why we're so quick to create these different things in our minds of how this whole thing began. Because we have no choice. Our imagination is really all we have here. You know, we don't have, we're too minute to really solidify anything that has any real truth to it, because we're too insignificant. In a grand scheme of things, we're too insignificant. I've never seen a man touch the sky. I never heard anywhere in history where a man jumped up and actually touched the sky, or what we call the sky. They say a man's been outside the earth before. I don't know that to be true. I've never been outside the earth. So with all this being said, man, it's impossible to really, really wrap your mind around all that is going on. It really is. It's going to take the deliberation of this physical body. We have to leave it in order to really, really understand what it is we're really, truly dealing with.